Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Ohio X webinar where we have another fascinating conversation around artificial intelligence, which is really the topic that every company and leader that we hear and see and talk to all across the state and certainly beyond are really thinking about. And this work that we're doing around AI in Ohio, what its adoption, deployment, scalability looks like. We really have one fantastic partner who's helping make so much of it possible, and that is Ben Blanquera, Vice President with Rackspace. And this conversation today around scaling Agentic AI, learning about some of their use cases and what they're doing with the company, is presented by FAIR. And so just want to thank everyone for joining. My name is Chris Bear. I'm the President and CEO of Ohio X. Really appreciate you taking time today. In just a second, after I introduce Ben, I will hop over to the chats. And so very much welcome everyone to join the conversation in the chats. We'll get it going there. And even feel free to drop who you are, what part of the world you're talking to us from today. And feel free to say hello or drop your LinkedIn if you'd like. But right now, I'd really love to welcome over Ben Blanquera to the virtual stage with us today. Ben, thanks again for all you're doing to help make this AI work in our state and beyond possible. We have collaborated on everything from these webinars to AI roundtables to a state AI report. And you're really at the heart of capturing what is happening, especially at the enterprise level with AI, with its adoption, its deployment, and its scalability. And so really looking forward to tuning in today and getting to learn more from you and the team.
Chris, thanks so much for the kind introduction. And folks, if you aren't tuned into Ohio X and all the things that Chris is doing to advocate for technology, you're missing something. So jump on that bus and go to Ohio X and subscribe to its newsletters and different events. That being said, we are incredibly excited to be here with you today and talking about AI. Now, you could play AI bingo, and you probably have bingo in 5 seconds in any conversations you're in. So, but that being said, one of the really things that's important as we think about AI in Ohio is how do we move from this sort of promise to production at scale? And as we think about that, we at Rackspace, and we're a hybrid cloud and AI company, we're focused on doing things at scale because that's where corporations really start getting return. And guess what? We think of Rackspace as patient zero. So what we want to do is create a learning environment today about what we're doing around scaling. And in particular, we're going to talk a little bit about agentic AI and our use of Sema4.ai to scale AI. So hold on. And if you haven't put your name and things in the chat, please do so. We want to make sure we know who's here. Come on, you can do better than that. Put your name, where you're from in the chat, please. Don't be shy. All right, I'm not going to shame y'all. We got to get going here. There you go. Thank you, Keith. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce our first panelist today. His name is Nirmal Ranganathan. He is CTO of Public Cloud and sort of our chief AI guy at Foundry for AI and Rackspace. Hi, Nirmal. How are you?
Hey, man. Doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. I always look at the notes afterward to see what I can learn from you. So let's start with just the basics. What is Sema4.ai and why does it matter? I'm assuming folks on this line that you can read up on agentic AI, and we had that conversation last webinar. So let's move on to the platform. So tell us about what Sema4.ai is, Nirmal.
Yep. So Sema4.ai at the core is an enterprise agentic AI platform that's really helping businesses build, run, and manage secure AI agents at scale. That's the core of it. It is built on a governance first, what we call as a safe framework. We'll get into the details, and operates within the customer's environment. And the other key element is enabling building these agents, giving the power to the business users. Mm-hmm. Most of the agent frameworks and platforms require a lot more development work up front to get up and running. Sema4's low-code platform allows you to sort of bridge that gap. And one of the unique aspects of the platform is being able to define your SOPs, operating procedures, and runbooks in plain English. And then having the agent really understand that and then connect the dots between what's described in those runbooks and connecting to the systems that actually are able to accomplish various steps within those runbooks.
Got it. So let me sort of paraphrase this. We know when we think about agentic AI, it's good. It's not one or two, it's hundreds or thousands of these things. And
Yes.
for an enterprise to really take advantage of it, we've got to figure out a way that each business function can leverage for what they need it to do. And for
Exactly.
that, what we need to do is have a way that the business users can be involved with building their own solutions. They don't need to be coders. They just need to be able to define what is their current process. And what I heard is Sema4 can allow users to do that. So it becomes a build your own agentic AI framework. And is that right, Nirmal? Is that sort of what that
Yes,
like?
it gives more power to the business user, right? The typical process of building an agent is the business defines what they're doing, processes, etc. And then an engineer basically takes that and tries to either, I mean, if you're using code platforms and frameworks, you're actually building the code to go execute that. Alternatively, you're trying to convert that into a prompt that a model of the agent can understand. So here you're doing neither, right? You're taking what is straight out of the box, a business process, and incorporating that in plain English. The
Oh,
agent, the platform does the rest for you.
I love that. So this is you have a product that can be
Yes.
configured, and you don't need a lot of developers to do what they need to do to make this
Exactly.
work. So
Yeah,
that's
helps you scale development and helps you scale management of these agents in production.
got it. Got it. All right, I'm going to deep drill into sort of the next question then. Can you walk us through to how the Sema4 platform architecture enables secure deployment? Because that's like job one, right? You got to be secure at enterprise scale. How does that work?
Yeah. So the foundation for Sema4 is built on this framework, what's called the SAFE: secure, accurate, fast, and then extensible and explainable.
Mhm.
So the first element, secure, the way Sema4 operates, and this is important for every organization, right? You want to make sure that whatever actions and data that your agent is executing against is in a secure environment. So the way the platform is organized is the metadata layer is a SaaS platform, and the data and the execution layers are within the customer's VPC. So it's within your cloud environments and fully under your control. And these execution environments are also basically sandboxed Kubernetes containers. So you have much more controlled execution environments, which is a key requirement for executing agents in production. And then obviously the features of being able to reason, plan, act, and execute on complex end-to-end workflows, right? That is key. So along with this, it ensures that data doesn't leave the boundaries of the organization. Again, from a model perspective, there are a wide variety of options to use different models. So depending on what models you use by hitting an API, there are elements of how you manage that, but the control is within the organization.
Got it. Got it. So this is one of those setups where your data goes someplace else. It does what it does, and it comes back to you with a result. This is within your VPC, within your environment, so it stays there.
Exactly. So that's the secure part of it. I mean, there's more elements to it. That's
Sure.
the key element. The next is accurate, right? So ensuring that there is no hallucinations and leveraging enterprise data in a much more transparent manner is key. So they have what's called as zero copy data architecture, where I'm able to actually connect to data sources within the enterprise in real time to, again, pull in knowledge, information as required for those different agents. And that also is a game changer because we've been used to sort of building these large footprint data platforms, aggregating all your data. But now I'm able to, with agents, actually start to connect the agent through tooling and action to the sources of the data and get much more real-time input there. So that's another key element. And the zero copy is key, right? So that's the aspect of ensuring that we can get accurate results for the actions for the agents to execute on. The second is fast, right? So any platform for you to be able to scale. You want to be able to develop quickly and then actually deploy and manage these agents in production very quickly. And I think that's what Sema4 brings to, right? We talked about plain English in runbooks and being able to quickly automate and deploy these environments into production. And it's built around your DevOps CI/CD principles. So I can easily build an agent in a development environment. They have a studio, right? That's the front end to build these agents. They have a really nice mechanism to package these agents. So everything that an agent executes, its memory, its reasoning is all contained within that execution environment. And then I can then, again, version control it and then deploy that into production environments, right? It's all packaged as a container. So it really helps that speed of development, speed of deployment as well. So that's the fast aspect of it. And then you have the extensible and explainable part. I'll talk on the explainable part because for organizations to build trust in agents, they need to understand what actions are getting taken, right? What's that reasoning process? So having that explainability built in out of the box, right? It's not an afterthought. It's not bolted on, right? It is a core part of how the agents execute and function and the platform operates. So every action, every reasoning step takes place is explained with details on why a particular action is being triggered, right? So actions in Sema4 terms is effectively agent tooling. So everybody's used to agent tooling, right? You're connecting to external sources of information, other systems that could be MCP servers and other agents as well. So that is represented as actions. And actions are nothing but executable Python code, right? So that acts as an interface layer. So the explainability part is going all the way through explaining why did I choose a particular tool or action and reasoning on once I have information from multiple inputs, how am I arriving at my conclusion, right? So putting that out of the box makes it really critical for enterprises to build that trust layer. And then the extensible is, I touched on that as well, right? Actions. So the action framework becomes your extensible framework. You have a lot of frameworks that are heavily towards one side with like low code, no code, and you run into the same issues as we run into the past with just general low code, no code platforms, right? Once you hit a particular scale, extensibility becomes an issue, right? I'm not able to accomplish more complex tasks. Or you have the other spectrum where, again, open source libraries and frameworks where a lot of it is much more code heavy. So getting something built and deployed to production becomes a larger surmountable challenge. And this sort of solves for both, right? It has the right mix of low code capabilities with the right set of extensibility where you can actually go extend it to do a wide variety of functions. I'll give you one quick example. So, and this is a common demo that runs, right? So oil wells, right? So I have data on production output of oil wells, and I want to go predict what my capacities and production outputs are going to be for, the say, next month. So I can have one action, right, tool that connects to the database, and I can have another action that is actually a predictive model. So I am in real time pulling the data for the last few days, and based on the last few days, passing that as input to this predictive model, and then getting an output, right, determining what that next month, week looks like. And then I'm able to actually analyze the data and put that back into context for the user. So that's, and again, quick example of what that extensibility, the power that extensibility gives you, right? Zero copy data access, extensible into other functions, right? Not just tools and system access, but into other predictive models and other capabilities.
That's fantastic. So everyone, for the audience, we're talking about there's a safe sort of platform mnemonic that is used to make sure we're secure, we're explainable, we connect to the right data, we can do it fast, and that this is extensible, which means you're not stuck in one box with this.
Exactly. Yes.
That's pretty fantastic. And what we do at FAIR is we wrap a series of services around that to implement it, to get it up and running, and then the enterprise is able to just build on it themselves, right? It becomes their engine.
Absolutely. And Brian can expand on that, right? Exactly what we're doing. So some of the extensibility layers connecting back into organizational systems, right?
Mhm.
Some legacy systems, some modern systems, but those are predominantly API driven, and you need a way to translate from APIs to agent speak, sort of term,
Yeah.
right? So agent protocols. And that is, again, that is some amount of development work, but that's what most organizations want to start with so that you can get ready for this agentic future.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Nirmal. You know what? Let's get right to the example, right? So we were talking about real world things. So Brian, we talked about sort of highlighting real world use cases. Can you share a specific example how enterprise successfully deployed agentic AI using Sema4? Talk a little about challenges and the outcomes.
Absolutely, Ben. And thanks to Ohio X for having us on today. It's a pleasure to be here. There's a couple of things that Nirmal talked about that are really, really important and what makes this platform unique. It's all runbook based. If you think about this platform, there's three distinct concepts, right? You have your runbooks, you have your actions, and you have your extensibility tools. And if you think about this in terms of how you would have to design a system uh, to do what a workflow does in traditional sense, right? You have to take your SOP, you have to look at all of the system mappings of all the systems that you're going to have to integrate. You're going to have to do a whole bunch of custom code to interact with each of those steps. But then you're also going to have to add logging, monitoring, alerting, and all of that at each of those stages, right? This platform bundles that all together for you so that IT is no longer a bottleneck in truly helping become a business differentiator. Um, what this allows you to do is separate it out so that, you know, the business and team leaders are responsible for creating their run books, their actions. What are the things that I need to accomplish? And as long as we have those extensibility tools in place, the run books can work seamlessly. And so looking at some real world scenarios, right? There's a lot of examples like I can talk about and some that I can't, but ones that'll resonate with everybody. Whether it's employee or contracting, onboarding and offboarding, certificate management, server management. These are things that every company has to deal with in one way, shape, or form. And every company has their own SOP for when you onboard somebody. What are the access managements that they need? How do I request those accesses? How do I request the software that they need for their laptops, their equipment? And each of those are very step-by-step basis. And what Sema4 allowed us to do was very, very quickly automate a lot of that through Agentic AI, creating actions for each of those steps, creating reusable components through those extensibility tools. Whether it's integrating back into ServiceNow or legacy tools or Workday or any other enterprise system. Now you have those reusable components that are usable by any other workbook or runbook that others want to use. And so some of the challenges that we faced were, you look at some of the problems that you want to solve and you automatically go to some of the biggest and most difficult to solve. And I can't stress this enough, especially when you're rolling the platform out, start simple. Use whatever analogy you want, whether it's crawl, walk, run, um, you know, learn to crawl before you can walk. So one of the benefits of Sema4 is that it also allows human in the loop interactions. So, you know, especially when you're walking, when you're creating onboarding or certificate management, you want to make sure that you're using your tooling and your observability and that explainability that Nirmal was talking about to make sure, hey, are these steps doing exactly what I expect them to do? You're kind of babysitting it. You're using those training wheels, and as you become more confident and slowly evolve the process, as you gain more confidence, to add more layers of automation in to add more actions into that runbook to have it automated for you. So thinking through onboarding, okay, did it request the right access? All right, cool. It did. Now I'm going to have it automatically send to the manager for approval. Or laptop, did it request the right laptop? Certificate management, did it follow all of the steps and renew the certificate? Did it apply it exactly like I expect it to? So again, just slowly let the process evolve and use the framework, the SAFe framework, for exactly what it's intended for, to truly help you evolve. You're not just looking at automating, you're making the process smarter as you go. So those are a couple examples that I can really point to say, as we look at our operational metrics, how can we make a difference for our organization? How can we make those that work at Rackspace, their experience better, faster, by having everything that they need day one, rather than waiting as time progresses to get all of those pieces. That helps them become productive faster, help them have a greater experience joining the organization, um, and then they can contribute so much faster in other ways. So those are just a few examples that I can give. You're on mute, Ben.
All right, I am a tech guy. All right, so so those are some great examples, Brian. What I love is, my first jobs out of college were industrial engineer. It's all about process engineering. And what I'm sensing is that, there's going to be a renaissance in process engineering. And then the auditors are going to be really happy because everything is instrumented and logged, right?
Correct.
Right. So the level of observability is there.
Every single one of those auditors says, show me your SOP, show me how you did it. Tell me what you say you're going to do, show me how you did it, and then show me how you can prove it. Well, now you have all of your, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. What Nirmal said is so important. You script it out in plain English. You take your run books, your SOPs, and you can put them directly in the system and let it action for you. So that's the what did you say you're going to do? Now you have proof that you did it. And with the explainability, you can show how the reasoning came up with what it did, where it pulled the data from, what it actioned, how it actioned, why it actioned, and you're spot on.
Oh my God. And in the fact, what I love is because everything's instrumented now, we have data for each step, right? And
Right.
so now you have data, and now you have an engine that allows it to learn from the data. So not only can it do what you want it to do, told it to do, but you can also throw in things like, how can we make this more efficient for the end outcome? And it knows what every agent is doing, can optimize the workflows of each agent. Is that sort of like, or am I getting way ahead of myself?
No, you're right. It's like I said, it's making the process smarter, not just automating.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm gonna take a let's see, email here. Oh, Odd. Hey, Odd. Welcome. Odd's got a question. How do you handle design for edge and exception cases? Do you front load for these in design, or do you start with happy path and create capacity around rapid iteration?
That's a great question. I mean, for the initial design, happy path is good, right? But just like anything else, you have to plan for a sad path, happy path, whatever, every single path you can, right? It's just like any other process. Um, if your SOP is well designed, that should already be integrated. You have to think through those and have to have the bail points, right? Because you use your observability framework to make sure that you're in the rails that you set out for your process automation.
Got it. Got it. All
Great
right.
question.
That's a great question. All right, we're gonna keep rolling here because we need to hear from our friend in UK, Mr. Bennet. Hey, Simon, how are you? You're on mute. Gotcha. You're still on mute, Simon.
I'm still on mute. I'm sorry. Yeah. Hi, Ben. It's great to be here again. I had some background noise, so apologies for being on mute, but it's all good.
No worries, no worries. All right, so we're gonna shift to governance, right? And talk a little bit about trust, because at the end of the day, trust is sort of the lingua franca. It is the currency that says I will allow agents to do these kind of things. And so let's talk about the governance first approach is highlighted as a key differentiator. How does Sema4 balance the autonomous nature of AI agents? So agents are doing their thing, would need for accuracy, explainability, compliance in highly regulated enterprise environments?
I think Brian summed up a lot of it when he was talking about the observability and the auditability that is embedded in the product. And a lot of it starts with that is whatever you do, you need to know what you've done, you need to have recorded what you've done, and you need to make sure that ultimately whatever has been done within those SOPs is what you expected it to do, which is, as Brian was saying, it's about writing a good SOP in the first place. And if you think about, if you ignore Sema4 for a minute and think about business process reengineering, which you described as being in many ways where you started some of your career, the whole point is that often those processes don't necessarily have edge cases. They may deal with the mainstream, and the human who's doing those processes in the old school would use their own experience or intuition to maybe recognize where there's a challenge or a boundary condition that's been violated. Really what Sema4 helps you to do is really when you're writing those SOPs is rethinking those business processes and looking at what may go wrong. If it does go wrong, what's the treatment? How do you maybe insert a human in the loop? The certificate example Brian gave was a good one. You don't want the action to be performed if it maybe exceeds a boundary condition, but you want it flagged and you want some human intervention. So really, what is Sema4 doing? It's trying to bridge that tension that exists between giving an agent autonomy, but making sure that you obey those demands that you have. It's got to be accurate, it's got to be explainable, and ultimately it has to be compliant, especially if you're working in maybe healthcare or financial services or the nuclear industry. So you have to make sure it follows the rules of the industry or the regulator or so on. And really, Sema4's got that sort of governance first model, which says that I need to comply with the governance before I go and do the things I'm going to do. And I think that's super important in just how you lay this out, that with anything in AI, whether it's Sema4 or whatever you're doing, the governance has to be laid down, the rules, the guardrails have to be laid down, and the product helps you do some of that. Brian mentioned again that ultimately this is auditable. So ultimately you're looking at, you've got the logging, but you've also got things like lineage tracking or version control. So you can make sure that what you're coding, as you enhance it and change it, you've got the version control, and you know that as the agent is changed, that it's done within a safe change control environment, and you're not in the Wild West, if you will, where people are just making changes, but they're not recorded in the way that maybe the SOP works or the way the system works. So you've got that control in terms of the overall auditable nature. Then if I move on to things like policy enforcement, ultimately the agents have to be subject to real-time monitoring, and you need to have that degree of policy enforcement that builds in that. So maybe you've got to detect drift in compliance. Maybe you've got to halt the agent behavior. Maybe you've got to trigger alerts or automated remediation of that workflow. Again, what you use, the product can help you do all of those things, which means ultimately when a compliance officer or an auditor looks at it, they can see what you're doing with those failure modes and what you're doing where things do drift from the compliance boundary in the first place. So they're, for me, some really quite important things that the product helps you do. But even if you're not using Sema4, those rules and ways of working must still exist in what you do. If you're maybe going outside of Sema4 and creating your own agents that are separate to the Sema4 environment, you need to think about all of those things because they have to be done. I think ultimately where I think Sema4 comes in is it doesn't really compromise between that agent autonomy and enterprise control. It has the built-in governance to make sure the two live in harmony. And ultimately, what you're looking to do is that you want an agent that runs independently, but within the bounds of compliance, in the bounds of accountability, and doesn't step out of that boundary. So really, it's not a differentiator to be governance first. In many industries now, it's mandatory. So I think that's where, for me, Sema4 can help, because it helps with that mandatory nature of governance, especially if you are regulated.
I love that. I love the fact that, most of us don't understand or have a full understanding of all the compliance things that we need to do. And so by being able to use something that has the rules essentially built in, that prevents me from doing things I shouldn't be doing just because of ignorance, right? Which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm going to surprise Brian here. This is unscripted, Brian. So you got to think here, buddy. Imagine.
Isn't in my SOP, Ben. I don't know if I can.
I know this is called an edge case, Brian, and we have to see what a human in the loop might need, which we might need Nirmal or Simon in the loop pretty soon here. So, so here's the question, Brian. So imagine, Amar, our CEO, comes up to you and says, "Hey, Brian, I know, we are scaling agentic AI and we're using the Sema4. Can you just, give me a sense like 2 years from now, what impact will this have had for us? What's the outcome that I can see?"
That is a great question. And honestly, I can say it is not just an enabler, it's a disruptor.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is if you look across every organization, not just Rackspace, right? Everyone has a bunch of manual processes that they're doing, things that they just do as a standard part of their job. And when you start thinking through each of those use cases and understand the impact of not what it does just to that employee, but what that does for the organization, if you can take those rote pieces out, put an agent behind it, and now enable that individual to do things that are completely disruptive to the market that you're in, it's mind blowing. We all have things that we do in our day-to-day jobs that we sit back and go, man, I wish I had someone or something that could just do this for me. Now, when you take again, I keep going back to Nirmal because he said it really, really well. A lot of agentic AI platforms rely very, very heavily on developers to still develop all of these things through code. But again, if you have each of those tools in place, now you can hand it to someone and say, you have your own SOP, put it into play. Let me just train you really quick on the platform. You can put your own run book in place. Now you have your agent taking care of things for you so that you can focus on things that are truly differentiators and disruptors for you in the market.
Got it. So for Amar, who is our CEO, what he would hear is we got a lot of really smart people. We're going to unleash their creativity on things that actually matter in the marketplace. We're going to make the ordinary, and we're going to just make it so it works, right? And that we're going to become a lot more operationally efficient and a heck of a lot more creative and move quickly because we're unleashing our humans.
We're not going to make the ordinary ordinary. We're going to make the ordinary non-existent and move people from thinking ordinary to extraordinary.
Oh my God, I stand corrected. Well done there.
And I'd add to that.
It was not on my script.
It's like giving a human a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another way of looking at it. These agents can be your superpower.
Yeah. And Simon and Nirmal, in a minute or two, I'm going to talk about the marketplace, but I want to go back to because I'm giving you fair warning to think about what is going to do in terms of the marketplaces, all right? But I want to come back to Nirmal. This is all great. This is like happy path. Everyone's cool. Why wouldn't we? So can we just chat a little bit about what are some of the obstacles, right, around yeah, let's go.
Yeah. The biggest one is the AI or the agent black box syndrome, right? Lack of trust. If you ask anyone as an individual, they want to go let the AI do everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just go let it run and figure out things. When you put your enterprise hat on, you completely switch, right? Because you can't do that. You can't afford to do that because everything from the business reputation, brand, again, whatever operation process, everything is on the line there. And you just can't let an agent do whatever it wants. So that is where we see the largest hurdle for most enterprises. And one area where I think we've touched on this several times in this conversation, where Sema4 comes into play, is it gives you that capability to extend beyond, but gives you the right governance controls, as Simon was mentioning, right? So that you can actually build trust in running this agent. combined with the observability capabilities, auditability, explainability, it sort of sealed the deal here, right?
So let me sort of, so the aha moment just happened here. So what this means is this platform, there are agents I create within this with the runbook, right? But because of its extensibility, if I'm running an action with an agent that was created someplace else, but I connected through an MCP, the action itself is governed through the platform from an observability, from a traceability, all those kind of things, so that this can become sort of the core governance and orchestration for
Engine for the platform. Yes, for all of the agents, right?
for all of the agents. I got you.
So that's like the biggest concern, right, for most organizations, is that lack of trust. So being able to have, and yes, people like to have non-deterministic agents, right? Like, yeah, go figure things out that I don't know. It's great, right? In theory, it's great. In practice, in some cases, it's great, right? In our personal lives, it's good. We use it in a lot of places, but not really on the enterprise side. So having that balance of predictable behavior that you want to accomplish with agents, combined with that reasoning capabilities and that long-term memory capabilities where I'm able to incorporate what I've learned, that becomes that game changer, right? That's what, as Brian mentioned, the ordinary gets removed. That's the ordinary part, right? What most humans do, that gets removed without having to be too concerned and worrying about, okay, is my agent going to go out of whack the next day, right? Something else changes. No. So that's why that's an important, to me, that's the most important concern that most organizations have. There are other ones. Yes, we can talk through the other things, right? Part of that is security and data privacy. So ensuring data stays within the organization boundary. So there's two critical elements, right? One is that zero copy data access. So you're not moving data around multiple different places. You're hitting the source of truth. Part of that zero copy data access is also translating credentials and permissions, right? So there's two types of agents: a conversation agent, where a human is actually interacting with an agent and getting things done. You've got worker agents, more autonomous, semi-autonomous agents that are working in the background. So providing the right sets of permissions, those are relayed back into the extended systems of records, right? So what are we connecting to? So that is key. And then on the security part, being able to executing these sort of containerized sandboxes. So it gives me additional layers of control at the application layer, network boundary layers as well. So that's why that's, again, another important factor. And every organization has to consider that, right? Sema4, not when you're using a platform, those are all critical elements.
Got it.
And
So
I have more, but I'll stop now.
well, we'll stop. We'll stop there. Yeah. I mean, this is fascinating. What I just heard is, some of the barriers, as long as you have conversations with the right team members, your security folks, your data folks, they drop, right? This is, and we have evidence and we have proof versus the, hey, just trust me.
Everything is recorded. Yes.
Okay. Love that. For the project managers whose sort of mantra is, I trust in God, but everyone else brings documentation. This is sort of like the manna from heaven at this point. All right, we're gonna put on our thinking hats and we're gonna look at the future. So Simon, how do you see the role of agentic AI evolving in enterprise over the next couple of years? And what new capabilities or governance frameworks will be critical for platforms like Sema4 to develop?
Ben, firstly, I've come off mute, which is good, but I think it is a big question, and I think if you had a crystal ball, I'm sure you'd get a few things right and a few things wrong. So I'll take what I'm going to say probably with a little bit of a pinch of salt because it's my personal guesswork as much as anything. But I think some of the things that I think I'm fairly confident that will happen is that as regulators get more heavily involved in what's going on, they'll demand standards. So there will be standards and policies, maybe even an ISO around the use of agents for interoperability, because ultimately you're going to have lots of agents talking to different products. I spoke to someone at ServiceNow the other day talking about having agentic access to ServiceNow. or agentic access to Salesforce. So ultimately, all these agents are going to want to talk to each other. So, you know, the ability to interoperate via a degree of standards and publish standards about interoperability, I think will become quite a big thing, especially again, if you're dealing with regulated industries, they'll want to mandate that. And I can't see governments not getting involved in that. In certain countries, they will specify that probably quite heavily. I think also agentic AI will change. Many people are looking at it and dabbling with agents replacing existing processes. I think over time, agents will become a lot more autonomous, you know, with agents talking to other agents. Therefore, that again, the trust issue and the governance issue around an agent talking to another agent where you don't know what's happening at the other end will become something that will need a lot more care and attention. If you think about data fields, you talked about Nirmal talked about data not leaving the organization. There's other elements to that, which is even in your own organization. What data can't you change or won't you change with AI? A simple example might be someone's date of birth. You've got to make sure that, you know, when you're looking at the data and understanding the data, that sort of chief data officer role in AI may come much more to the fore with the rules around individual data fields and master data within a customer. And some of the old school processes around data management and master data management, I think may become something that comes more to the fore about, well, what will I allow to be changed? What won't I allow to be changed? When do I need a human in the loop? So I think there's a whole data element there as we use this across a wider field of data and systems that will become more of an industry in terms of the standards and ways of working. I think the other piece, I think the human in the loop will become more seamless. I think where, you know, now there'll be maybe stop points where humans have to check something. Again, I'll go back to Brian's point about certificates. I think the interaction will be more seamless where something is much more in real time, that it's just yes, move on, or human makes a decision and move on. And it'll just be part of a workflow. It won't be a check stop. It will be a smooth workflow, really almost embedding that AI or that agentic in everything you do in your daily life. So it will become almost second nature for a human to interact with an agent doing a function, and people will stop thinking about it as being agentic AI, just part of their job. So I think we'll evolve in how we interact as well as the products themselves interact and do that. And finally, I think, where will AI go? This will become quickly mission critical. It won't be something that we're doing as almost a nice to do to be more productive. There will be companies that will be running large portions of their functionality with agentic AI, and that means that they will be mission critical with all the things you need to do around, you know, continuous operations, business continuity, you know, the disaster recovery and everything else that goes with it. So the thought processes around how do you make sure this is truly resilient on top of what you're doing and run those business processes 7/24 in a resilient fashion. I think there'll be a lot more devoted to making sure these things are mission critical and can operate in that type of environment. So just a few personal thoughts as much as anything there, Ben, on where I think it will go. How many of those are correct? I'm really not sure, but I'm sure there's quite a few I've probably missed in the way this will progress and evolve. But there's just a few of my favorites that I picked up upon in dialogue I've had on my own thoughts about the future.
Oh, those are I think pretty spot on, Simon. I could see all of those, and you know, it's just really with the pace of technology, you almost need to think 2 or 3 years to get like what could be, because technology's it's all possible now.
Yeah.
So the question is now is what's the change in behavior? What's a change in operating model? What's the meta structure of how do we interact with other companies? That becomes a ton more important to make sure we don't run into that wall when we get there. Because it, you know, rogue was it the shadow IT is was a term, shadow AI? We ain't seen nothing yet. So Nirmal, what's your thoughts on sort of this future?
Yeah, well put points by Simon. So my view is, I mean, it's happening, right? If I were to give a Stone Age analogy, right? People were building the original wheels in carving out of rock, and then getting to wooden wheels. If they thought, okay, hey, that next innovation, if I'm going to be worried about it, we wouldn't be where we are. The key difference, right? I mean, like we had 10 years or a decade in transforming to the cloud. Every past transformation, we had a lot of time on our hands. So the humans to adopt and process it was a lot more easier.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest challenge we're going to have now, or we have now, is we don't have time, right? Time is in the matter of months, right? Weeks even. So that is the biggest challenge as we get into this future, but the future is already here. So people need to start realizing it. The technology is going to outpace what humans can process and adopt within organizations. So the future really depends on how each of us process this and sort of embrace it.
Got it. The future is now.
It is now.
Future is now. Brian, what about you, man?
You know, I think a lot of great points from both of these fine gentlemen. Um, the human element is really what is going to change the most. The technology is going to adapt and evolve so quickly. I mean, think of where we were just a few months ago to where we are now with agentic AI and how fast things have moved, right? And what you then think about is the compounding effect of what that then does for future evolutions of AI and technology. It's not going to slow down. It's going to pick up and exponentially. And one of the interesting things that I have seen from the human aspect of it is, Nirmal talked about the natural inkling to want to push back on AI, right, and not trust it. But you have to understand it's here, it's not going away, and it will evolve fast. So what I've noticed from teams that are implementing agentic AI, when they first start and they have that pushback period, it's always, well, I versus the tool is the nomenclature that you hear, right? To or the vernacular that you hear, how that transitions from that to once it's implemented, it's we. The agent becomes a part of you and your team.
Nice.
It
Okay.
is your digital assistant that's helping you do all of those tasks. Um, and so, I think as teams start to evolve and move from that I versus the tool to we, and understanding that, the days of being software craftsmen to being orchestrators of technology, that's where the shift is going to happen. And the faster that people do that, the faster that organizations do that, the organizations that can do that effectively are going to be the ones that effectively step away from their competition, and not just again in a linear fashion. It's going to be exponential. So the faster that people start adapting it, organizations start adapting it, and the better off, and that not only are they going to be, but their organizations and the capabilities that they're going to be able to do.
Got it. So, folks, here's my takeaway. That there's the opportunity to give your team members superpowers. It is here, it is now, and that Sema4 is sort of a platform that allows that to happen. And so we at Rackspace are incredibly excited about that, and so we encourage you to read up more about it. Go to our website, check out our readiness assessment, and give us a call if you have any questions or comments. Before I turn it back over to Chris to take us away, Brian, Nirmal, or Simon, any last words?
I think the only thing I'd say, Ben, is we're in for an exciting ride, and we
Yeah.
need to be ready to get on that roller coaster and enjoy it, because I think we'll all do very well out of it, and we'll benefit from it in our daily working lives.
Yeah, Brian, I think we should start giving out like Superman T-shirts to the folks who are experts at this stuff, because they now have superpowers. I think that we should do that
Yeah,
And
there
then
we go.
everybody needs an embrace the change
there you go.
caption on as well.
right.
The last thing I'd say is I think there was what was it, a Bachman Turner Overdrive band that had a song called "You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet." I think that truly applies here.
Oh, well, it's exciting. So Brian, Nirmal, and Simon, thanks again for your amazing commentary here. If anyone wants to get into the details and sort of technical things around that, just give us a call. We'd be happy to share a little bit more about sort of like how the sausage is made, but it's being made, and it's being made automatically with these agents. So we're pretty excited about that. Chris, over to you.
Well, Ben and team, thank you so much. And to the whole Fair and Rackspace team, we just really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your expertise. Thanks for everyone for jumping on today. We will download this and put this up on the Ohio X YouTube channel. That way, if you want to go back and source any of this and hear some of this expertise, you have it there. But again, Ben and team, thank you so much. If anyone needs connections with them, feel free to reach out. But Ben, I'm guessing most folks know you or certainly online on LinkedIn to ping away directly. But again, just thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for hopping on. And again, Ben, thanks for facilitating a great conversation. So thank you all.
Thank you all. I appreciate all you all attending. Take care.